Hey everyone, welcome to the Heavy Lifts podcast. Today we talk with Jacob Espinoza. He is the creator of What's Happening Salem. It is a platform for local businesses and people to talk and connect, and he's built quite the following. We talk a little bit about his dad, about Jacob's origins as a rapper, how he used to work for T-Mobile, working for Chamber of Commerce, and how he became the man he is today. It's a very interesting conversation. We also dive a little bit into some of the things happening in Salem that are hot button topics, especially with social media. So please tune in. We're excited to present this to you. Welcome to Heavy Lifts Podcast, Jacob Espinoza.
Let's go.
How are you doing?
I'm great, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. AJ, how we doing?
I'm excited for today.
Right?
Oh,
This is a good story.
This is a
right
great
here.
story. Having somebody join us who, your world is social media, right? Your world is communications. Like what we're doing on our podcast is, a form of communication to to Oregon, to Salem, and you do that like for a living. So I'm just like super stoked to talk about that, and also like origin stories. Like for you, I got to talk to Jacob's dad
The
before
legend,
this.
the author.
He is a legend. Eight books. He's an author.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
He just started writing and kept going. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, and so like just diving in and hearing about all this is going to be really exciting, and getting to how What's Happening Salem came about. And everybody thinks that it just happens, but I want to get into all that. I'm excited.
I'm confident it's been a heavy lift. And we're gonna
Thank
understand.
you.
Yep.
Yes, throwing it right in there. Well, let's get started, and let's just dive in here. So we'll start with your dad. Seems like I got to meet him at the awards show this last weekend. Fantastic guy. It was actually the second time I've got to interact with him. He seems like he's your biggest cheerleader.
100%. Yeah, I feel like if you have somebody like who my dad is for me in your corner, it's impossible for you not to believe in yourself. Because throughout my entire life, there's been this like push of confidence of like you can do cool things, you can make things happen. And so it's just, super blessing for sure. My mom passed away when I was young. I was in 5th grade. And so to have him consistently show up in my life, and I was not the easiest teenager by any means at all. I was still like dealing, I think, with things with my mom. Like we all go through like the need to be accepted. And so I was a party kid, you know what I mean? I lived for the weekends, like to get out and have some fun. And that was not my dad at all. So it was tough for him to I think wrap his head around seeing me, drinking and smoking and doing some of the things that adolescents do during the rebellious years. But he always stuck with me, always believed in me, and had my back throughout my entire life. So it's been a blessing for sure.
So a few things that stand out from our conversation with David, your dad. Well, the first one is he wrote 8 books. He authored 8 books, and there was one book that really stood out. It was Half Blind with Full Vision.
Yeah. So if you want to get to know me, that's a great book to read because it's my dad's autobiography, telling his story of kind of things he went through in his childhood and then raising me as a kid and my brother as well, of course. But I think a lot of people talk about writing books and want to, and he made it happen and has been consistently doing it since retiring. He worked for the state, and like since starting work at the state, he kind of like had this date he knew he could retire. And when that day came, he pretty much was like, yep, I'm out of here. And was on the original Purge plan, so he was doing pretty well in retirement. And now writes books, having fun with it. Incredible.
I would like to say in my family, my grandfather on my mom's side has written a book. It was called Past Telling.
Very cool.
And my mom was an English teacher. She wrote a couple of like textbooks as well, but nothing like your dad. And it sounds like the genesis of that book was like Half Blind with Full Vision was because of an accident he had as a kid, right?
Yeah, so he, at a very young age, had an accident where him and his brother were playing with wires. They lived in Texas. They were like super poor family, and so they were finding what they could play with, and wires is what it was that day. And they were swinging it around, and one wire stuck in his eye. And so So he actually lost an eye, like 3 years old.
Oh my gosh.
Was in a hospital, like by himself in a room for like months as it healed. Was like an hour away from his family. So like for them getting to visit him, just not having a ton of means was a challenge. And like you think of like going through that at that age. And I don't know, it's heartbreaking still to even think about like him having to do that at such a young age. And I didn't know he had a fake eye my entire life until like I was 18, because he'd always wear like really dark glasses, and he kind of hid it from and never just told us about it. Yeah. And eventually one day he opened up and shared it, and I was like, why did you not tell this to me? Like my entire life, why do you feel like you had to hide it? But I think, that's just where he was at in his life. So it's cool to see him open up and like share an entire autobiography on his life, because he's a super private person for the most part.
Yeah, and he also was a football star.
Yes.
Here, which obviously gives a reason for your athleticism,
yes.
right?
Kicked a 56-yard field goal once.
A 56-yard field goal.
Yeah.
So is that
wild.
easier with one eye?
It must be. that was his superpower for sure. Yeah. I'll have to ask him.
Right?
That's hefty.
Yeah.
And coming, AJ and I both played soccer. I never got to see you play, AJ. I've seen you try to juggle a small soccer ball. But I don't know. Could you kick the ball far? Were you
I was the place kicker. I took all the goal kicks. I could.
Oh, okay. So
I
you
could put a ball, let's call it 10 to 15 yards past the half line.
Okay.
I got some.
I was going to say you got some meat on those legs.
Yeah. It's hard to find jeans that can hold these legs. Would never fit in yours.
Yeah, no, you certainly would not. You got a stocky profile. I will give you that.
But 56 yards back when your dad was playing was a really big deal. Like I don't know what's changed in today's football.
Well, technique,
70
right?
yards.
Yeah.
Well, maybe part of it's technique. Part of it's got to be the balls that have changed too.
Yeah.
But 56 yards back in the day was like
It's impressive.
top of the line.
For sure.
And he played for the Salem Stars. Is that right?
So he played in high school. He got injured, unfortunately, in high school, so kind of made playing college not an option. But yeah, played for the Salem Stars, got some looks from a Canadian team, and decided to, wasn't going to be worth the investment relocating for something like that. But yeah, we used to have a semi-pro team in Salem called the Salem Stars, which was probably pretty fun.
Okay. That's amazing. And one of the quotes that stood out from my conversation with your dad was that he said, "I've learned a lot from Jacob."
Yeah.
Which I think is a really cool quote, I think, because he actually mentioned a story about how he was working on coding for like the state of Oregon, and he was running through some sort of issue with the coding, and he called you for help. And you're like a young kid, and just like helped him solve the problem. And he
Don't
was
remember
like,
that.
Yeah. And I was like, damn, that's pretty cool, because I don't know much about coding.
Yeah.
And especially back in those days when you actually needed to know the languages, that must have been a pretty big deal. So he obviously really respects you, and I love that part of the conversation. You're like, I mean, the biggest cheerleader of Salem that I know, and we obviously love Salem, right? AJ and I, and the followers we have, and everything, and what we're doing. But what is like your earliest memory of Salem?
My earliest memory. So I lived in North Salem, and we would walk. There used to be a farmer's market and a little market, and then there was like a convenience store across the street called the farmer's market was Middle Grove Market, I believe, and then there's a convenience store. It was over by Scott Elementary is where I live, so like pretty deep north. And I remember we would walk and like get fresh fruit and then get something unhealthy at the convenience store. I remember that being like a big part of my childhood for sure. And then Enchanted Forest, going there as a kid and running through the tunnel for hours, and doing that every summer with my mom and my grandma. And then we have a group of cousins usually with us. And then basketball, playing Boys and Girls Club. Remember when Boys and Girls Club built their facility that's on Portland Road? They were in a church at one point, and they had like a gym and like a couple of rooms. And they built this like brand new facility, and it just seemed like, I don't know, just like the nicest place on earth. So we'd go play basketball there all the time. Most of my memories are around sports for sure. Like we were a pretty big track family as a kid. I did shot put and discus, was never fast my entire life. I always wondered what it would like to be fast, like just for one day. But a lot of it around sports, specifically basketball though.
So speaking of basketball, you and I have something in common.
What is this?
Elks National Hoop shoot.
Yes. Were you a free throw champion as well?
I actually wasn't a champ. I took second place in my hometown.
Okay.
I actually, I think I went 23 for 25. Believe it or not.
Oh, yeah.
I think you went 24 for 25.
Okay.
Is what your dad told me.
Yeah.
And I actually took third, but the second place guy ended up getting disqualified for some reason. So I ended up taking home like the second place championship.
Okay.
And I didn't get to go on to regionals like you did, but it was like a big deal. Like that trophy was like, had some weight to it.
Yeah.
And you thought like, and the pressure you're under when you're shooting free throws, like in front of all
What
those
age?
kids.
Yeah. It's
What
like
age?
grade school.
Yeah, grade school.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe like sixth grade, but
Yeah.
I think it was younger. Yeah. What was that experience like for you?
I mean, we lived for it. I was like in the back, like practice. We had a basketball hoop. So my dad always built a basketball hoop in our house. So like we always had one in our backyard. And so I would be back there like practicing free throws. I remember there was one year I was just kind of like, I'm kind of done with this. I didn't train as hard, and it was like hard for my dad because he's like, you used to live for this. Like, why do you not want to win this year? But no, I'd be back there all the time, just like perfecting it. And it's fun now, like showing my kids the trophies, and they're like so impressed. Like, what? You did that every year? Because I dominated. Like it was like I won. I think it was like 3 years in a row I won state, and then I got second, or maybe I made it to state 3 years in a row, but I got second in regionals one year. But like I think I like lost by one free throw. I would have gone to nationals, which is a big deal because they pay for you to like, go to Indianapolis, and like I don't think they have it any longer. I remember my kids' school at least didn't do it one year, but it's not as big of a deal as it used to be. It really seemed like it was something that the community was like pretty excited about.
It was so fun.
Yeah. So it would be cool to have something like that in Salem again, for sure.
Yeah, like that. And it's like you're taking a portion of the game that is like really important. Like in soccer, it would be like a penalty kick, right? And you're just like taking this thing and you're making it just its own competition.
Yeah.
And like to have that for when you're a kid and have all those eyeballs on you and to get to experience all that must have been amazing for you.
Yeah.
So I want to, before we dive into like the basketball thing, I want to like rewind back to elementary school, because I know you got into rapping, right?
Yeah.
And your dad told me a story about like one of the first times he heard you rap was when you were, I guess, competing to be maybe president of your of your elementary school.
So
Can you tell us the story?
I was in, I think 5th grade. I was running for president of like the school, and everybody else does their like speech. I was like, nah, I'm gonna do a rap. And so like I wrote a rap and like did it in front of the school like 3 times, because there's like different assemblies where you would do it. And the 6th graders gave me so much crap because I was a 5th grader and I was running for president. I was the only 6th grader running. And you know what? I think Luke Emanuel was one of the people I was running against, who now does the Marionberries.
Yeah.
Wait, you were the only 5th grader running.
I was only 5th grader running for president.
Okay.
Yeah, because it was at that point 6th grade. It was like one of the last years where 6th grade was still in grade school. But I feel like he actually was one of the people that I was running against. That's funny. I just remember that. But yeah, I did this rap that was like, I'm going to get you more recess. And like, I don't know. I made all these outlandish promises in this rap. And yeah, definitely got a little bit of flack for it, but I was just out there having fun. So
what got you into like rapping and also like the ability to perform in front of so many people like at that young of age?
Yeah, I think there's always been like a want to like put things together. Sometimes it's an event, sometimes it's words and like formatting them in a certain way to like tell a story or whatever it might be. But being a weird kid, I mean, there's something wrong if you're a 5th grader writing raps. Like there's a screw loose in there somewhere probably. You know what I mean? You just got to be comfortable enough to run with it. Yeah.
So the speech for president, like, did you win?
I didn't win.
Okay.
No, I'm not sure where I was on the runner-up category, but didn't win. They did end up using some of my ideas. Like we got a juice machine, I remember, at Hayesville Elementary. That was a big deal, and that was one of my campaign promises, is we're going to make that happen.
Okay.
No, but it didn't win. Did not.
How did that impact you as a 5th grader, right? When those 6th graders, at that point in time, that year is a big difference, right?
Yeah.
We're hurling insults at you.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't think of it too much. I feel like I've generally done pretty good about like, I'm just going to do my thing and not worry about it, what other people are saying about me. I feel like that's been ingrained in me from a young age. So it didn't bother me as much, but I remember it a little bit happening, you know?
Does it help that you were probably taller than most of the kids?
I was
too?
taller than them.
Yeah.
I could beat them at basketball. They
Yeah.
weren't messing with me in free throws. I knew that for sure. So, like, let's take us to the free throw line, buddy.
Yeah,
you know,
that's right.
Meet me after school with a flagpole. We're gonna shoot 10 free throws each and see who's the champion here.
Yeah, I feel like sports it definitely gives you a little bit more armor when you're dealing with those the older kids, right? And gives you a little bit more respect, and it does help. So let's fast forward to the kid Espy and rapping. Like, where did that, like, the genesis was obviously young age, but then like how did you get started as a rapper?
Yeah, I mean, I just fell in love with hip hop, the culture, rap music. Like from a very young age to the point I was writing raps for class president in 5th grade, and it just kind of like stuck with me. I don't know exactly what it was about it, but it just like I heard it and I get it. Like it just clicked with me pretty early on. And in high school at parties, like I was, we were freestyling and I was usually like the best of like the little group I was with. Yeah. And then James Hegg actually, he sold a house, got into real estate early. So we were like in college, he sold a house, bought a bunch of music equipment, and we would just go to his house and like record like tracks. He's a really good producer. I don't know if you know about him or not, but
he's told me that he was into like was he spinning and DJ that scene?
A little bit DJing, but more just like actually making the beats, producing the music, and then we would rap on the beats. And that was when I got into like creating a song, understanding how to structure a song and things like that. Yeah. And I was just the one that just kept going and just kept making music. And I put out a lot of music. I think I had 5 albums out. I deleted all of it off Spotify because I didn't want my kids to hear it. So I did this like 4 or 5 years ago. I'm like, they're
AJ's done that with some of his social media as well.
Yeah.
There's some stuff that just should expire.
Stuff in Montana that needs to stay in Montana.
It served its purpose, and I've tried to get back into it a little bit, but it would take a while to like rebuild that muscle where I put something out I'm proud about, and I just not where I really want to invest my time right now. But it was great. I mean, I met a lot of great people. We did so many shows. It was like the best public speaking training you could ever get, because I would be at a show like at a random bar in California with a group of people who really were not interested in seeing me, and I had to like figure out, okay, how do I connect with this audience enough where they're going to buy a couple CDs afterwards or buy a T-shirt or something. So it was great training there. Also putting events together. I would do a lot of shows in Salem, and we'd bring people from other cities, and then it was kind of like an unspoken rule, like you bring somebody, then they'd bring you to their city to do a show. So we would start networking that way, and met some great people through it. Had a lot of fun for sure.
So I heard you performed at schools, libraries, fairs, a cage match.
We would perform everywhere, because at that time in Salem, like every bar pretty much had like a no hip hop rule. Like they would have they'd try to do a rap show, there'd be a fight, like, okay, we're never doing it again. Okay. It's like, all right, like we'll figure out a way. It's like we did a show like at a donut shop off Lancaster. We brought in speakers, a DJ, and it turned out to be one of the best shows. It was so fun because it was like such a small space. We probably had like 40 people in the room, but it felt packed. Like battle started breaking out afterwards, where people that were like in the audience came up and like were battling each other. There was a couple of like break dancers that showed up. Like it was just like a cool event that happened at this little donut shop, and like they paid us in donuts afterwards. You know what I mean? So like nobody made money, but we did enough that like it built a little bit of a buzz, and so the Statesman Journal would write about us. And at that point, bars were like, "Hey, we want our name in the Statesman Journal." So finally, there was like an opportunity for us to actually do shows at an actual establishment where that was more built for music. So we did a lot of small shows. We did I opened for Twista and E40, opened for Vanilla Ice, opened for some really cool people.
You opened for Vanilla Ice?
That's always the one that gives people. It was in Corvallis, and there was a promoter that just really enjoyed us. On MySpace, we did really well. I had a song called Oregon Homeboy. And on MySpace, you could like make a profile song. So like people go to your profile, and that was like the only song about Oregon that was out. So people from Oregon would hear it, and like that was my first like viral moment where I had songs that got like 1,000 plays, and then that one had like 300,000 plays. Yeah. And I thought like my dad was like rigging it or something. I was like, Dad, like, are you doing something to like get all these plays? And like, Jake, I don't know what you're talking about. And then I would find out that, like, people would just like put it as their profile song, and so the only thing I ever really made money off of was Oregon Homeboy T-shirts that I made and sweatshirts. Those sold really well. And I remember when I first put Oregon Homeboy out, I got like a $300 check from CD Baby, and I was like, I'm on. I made it. I'm making money from music. And that was like that was like the biggest check I ever got from them. So it was kind of short lived. But
downhill from there.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. Like to think of that like viral moment. I actually got to watch your Oregon Homeboy video before we're actually today this morning, and I think we're gonna throw it in the show notes.
Let's go.
And maybe even throw it as the intro here. I loved it. It definitely it was a throwback, like 90s throwback, or was it early 2000s?
Yeah, it was mid 2000s, 2005, 2007. I think.
Okay. I got to jump in here.
Okay.
What would it take to get the muscle memory on Oregon Homeboy back? Like,
I mean, I could do that song. I've done that song so many times. Like it wouldn't take long for that one.
I'm pretty sure we need to throw a party this fall, and you need to open the
return of the Kid SB.
Oh.
There'd be tens of people just showing up.
Oh, there would be the three of us and your dad.
Oh yeah. And I got to get and so if you still got some shirts in the closet,
I think we could throw back some of those shirts. That actually, I mean, it's cool though. That's a cool brand, and I think it just like what you're doing now. It really shows that you were already like kind of laying the foundation if you didn't necessarily know where it was going to go.
Yeah.
Like with that song.
Yeah.
Right. Because I mean, listening to the lyrics, it's like you're proud of where you live, right?
Yeah.
And you know, you're hearing people talk about negatively about this or about that part of your home state, and you're like, no, that's not how I see it.
Yeah, I'm gonna put a dream out there. I want John Heder to make a movie about Oregon called Oregon Homeboy, where like that's like the theme song. And it's kind of about how like this is a state we love. There's some quirks about it that are kind of funny because the song is really like laughing with us. But I think that would be a great concept. I would love to explore at some point.
I think we got to make that happen.
Yes.
Mark it now. We're gonna make that happen. I want to pivot to your basketball career. You went to Lynn Benton College. Is that right?
Yep.
Lynn Benton. And like, how did you do there? How was your career?
It was fun. We were the first team at Lynn Benton Community College actually made the playoffs.
Okay.
So that was a great time. I was still very much in party mode. Yeah. Like I don't think I lifted a weight the entire time I was at Lynn Benton Community College. And I was definitely smelling pretty bad some of those Saturday morning practices for sure. I feel bad for the people that were guarding me because I was sweating the booze out. You know what I mean? But it was a great time. It was a great experience. And college sports is a big commitment, even at a community college level. So like when I think of like what D1 athletes have to put in, I'm sure both of you are more familiar with like higher level college athletes. Even at community college, it was a lot. So. I think sometimes people underestimate like the actual commitment it takes to play at a college level.
100%. And after you went from Lynn Benton, did you go to U of O? Is that right?
Yeah, went to U of O. Didn't play there. Intramural champions though, so you know that was fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, U of O was a good time. Studied advertising, which is in the journalism program. Okay. At Lynn Benton, I was actually the sports editor of our school newspaper.
Oh no way!
So I kind of started like developing the journalism chops pretty early. And then originally had the idea of being in that program at U of O and transitioned into the advertising world, but still within the J school at U of O.
Okay. And sounds like your dad was telling me that you actually created, like you did some graphic design and you created some albums for like other artists.
Yeah, that was how I made money in music. I wasn't really selling music, but I was like doing graphic design and websites for other rappers that needed it done. And I was kind of the person in the community that could do it. And I was doing a pretty good job. I think I hit a wall eventually where I realized I didn't love it enough to be as good as I would need to be to really like make a living off it and do well. But it was fun while we did it, you know.
Yeah. And then after college, did you, like, I know you worked with T-Mobile. Was that like right after college? Or
Right after college, I worked for I was doing outdoor sales for a fastener company, Fastenal, if you're familiar with them. And so I did that. I worked at a warehouse. I did that. And I was kind of just like, I don't know, it was awful. Then I worked at T-Mobile started just answering phone calls. And then I hit 30 and I was like, I kind of want more for my life than just like bouncing around entry-level jobs, and started getting really into like leadership development. And was fortunate to build a good career at T-Mobile. I was a, leadership development consultant my last 3 years with the company. So I worked up from answering the phones to doing that. I was proud of that part of my life for sure. And yeah, kind of grew up. Luckily I grew up, hit my 30s. And I was like, let's kind of, be more intentional with what we're doing with our life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, it seems like with the build up to like what's happening Salem, like a lot of these things you were doing were just very like socially like focused. Like
Yeah.
you can tell you really like to be around people, and you like to like in your obviously practice public speaking, rapping, and obviously the sports side of things. So like, what is it about people that you enjoy most?
It's hard to say for sure. I just get a lot of fulfillment bringing people together, finding ways to recognize people. So while I was transitioning out of my rap phase, I started this blog called We Out Here, and it was focused on Northwest hip hop. At that point, like blog culture was really big, but for the most part, they wouldn't give any attention to like Seattle, Portland, Oregon, what was happening. There's a few artists, but for the most part, like just wouldn't. And so we created this opportunity to recognize this community. And we built a lot of attention. We were throwing parties in Portland, and they would do very well, pretty consistently. Never quite figured out how to monetize it, so it kind of was a side thing. I have a friend that runs it now, and it's kind of like kept it alive sporadically in Portland named Max Smith. So I think like I've always saw communication and community like very aligned, where like when I'm creating some sort of a product, there's going to be a component of storytelling, and through that storytelling is how we can help people connect with each other, because you learn about the opportunities to connect. You can maybe see something that you're doing that aligns with what somebody else is doing, but without the visibility and the recognition, you both are going to be in silos that maybe never cross paths.
I love that. I mean, that is like communication at its core, and bringing people like communication, like just bringing people together. That's like such a
It's a lost art.
Yeah.
How do you train more people?
Yeah.
To communicate?
I've talked about this a few times, but like I visited the Statesman Storage Building.
Yeah.
And it's just wild thinking that used to be filled with reporters that were all writing about things happening in Salem. You know what I mean?
Right.
Now you got Salem Reporter with like 5 people, Statesman Journal has maybe 10. I don't know what their staff looks like right now, but there's no way they can talk about everything that's happening. And we've kind of seen this transition of like 3 big companies owning all the media to now we've kind of flipped it on its head, where it's like there's all these individuals that are creating their own like micro media companies. And through technology, like it's easier to do that than ever before, because everybody's attention is on a phone, and all you have to do is create content consistently that's engaging and entertaining, and you can build a legitimate media company. And I feel like we're kind of like at a once in a lifetime type of an opportunity, because it's never going to be as easy as it is right now to do it. And I feel like a lot of people just don't really understand how valuable that opportunity is. I heard somebody compare it to like buying a house in the 40s, where like you didn't realize how cheap this house actually was or how valuable it's going to be in the future. And kind of one of the theories is that that's how we're going to look at people who are building brands right now. Like we're going to look back at like 2020, 2025. It's like, man, it was so easy back then. Why was I not going? And sometimes I'm like, man, why am I not pressing even harder and like starting all these other brands that I know would probably do well? Yeah. But priorities for sure.
For sure. I'm curious now. I want to like transition over to like what's happening in Salem, and I want to know like, how did that come about? And was that something, you're just like, you woke up one morning, you're like, I'm going to do this? Or was this like, years and years in the making?
Yeah, I think there's been the seed was planted probably a while ago. I think with with We Out Here, I kind of learned that the audience that you build is gonna make it easier or harder to monetize. I think you see the gap in local journalism, where there just aren't the resources available that there used to be. A city like Salem, we don't have a TV station. There's a gap there. For a long time, I was creating content about leadership and leadership development, and really working on building a brand in that lane, which did fairly well. I didn't quite get where I wanted to go, and maybe I'll circle back and like start approaching that again. But I worked for this company, Work Week, based in Austin, Texas, and we built a newsletter, podcast, and an Instagram channel called Leaders Lens. And while I was there and kind of understanding how they built their business, I realized like this model would work really well, like local media. So I kind of had that in my head. And then AJ approached me with an idea for a podcast. And so it was us and like Chris Blackburn, Brittany was on the call.
That wasn't your first? Sorry, Jacob, keep going.
No, we did one episode, and even the logistics of making it happen was pretty impossible because everybody on the call was super busy.
So you did. So it was one episode with you, AJ, Chris Blackburn, and Brittany Randall.
Was there anybody else on it? Might have been the four of us.
I don't think I was on it.
You were there.
Was I?
Yeah.
Oh, this is funny.
Yeah.
So my memory is very different than yours on how this came together, but this is very good. Keep going. Keep going.
And so I approached AJ with the idea of like, instead of this podcast, let me start an Instagram channel, have like the same focus, but growing an Instagram channel will be infinitely easier than trying to grow a podcast. And so he helped support it initially as our founding our sponsor, which I'm still very grateful for. And we started just putting content out. We had about a month where it was pretty slow growth, and we had a couple posts that just just took off.
What were those posts that went well?
There were a couple of memes that did well, but didn't get a ton of followers. The first one that did very well and also got like a lot of people hitting the follow button was announcing what a building was going to be. So there was the dollar distribution warehouse, which I think is still under construction. I don't think they're even open yet. But I did a green screen where I had just like a picture. I think I got it off Google Maps. I was like, hey, did you hear about this is going to be? And they kind of talked about how to get there. Then I announced, right, like this is what it is. Yeah. And that post just got tons of shares. And I'm like, all right, this is something I need to keep making. So I've kind of made it that's been one of the pillars of the page is just when there's new construction. And a lot of people will ask me now. And so I know if one person is asking, there's probably a lot of people who are curious. So I'll go do the research, figure out what something's going to be and make a post like that, which takes like 10 minutes to put together, right? Yeah. And so, that was one of the first posts that really did well. And I think kind of starting to establish ourselves, rather, as a place where people can go to get information.
Is that how you remember the story, too?
Well, I clearly don't even remember the podcast. But I would say from my recollection, we were working on the Forge. And
what year is this, by the way?
This
was last year.
Yeah, so let's call it 18 months ago.
Yeah. Really? That's that recent?
Yeah.
Wow.
So this would have been January 24, February 24, March 24. We started these conversations, and the goal was, I thought we had something special. And I was like, Jacob, I was looking at like who out there is engaging, has good humor, has a heart for Salem in the right place. And so I landed with Jacob pretty quickly. There wasn't a lot of options, right? But in our conversations, and I loved our conversations and I think you steered me, or maybe I steered you to that podcast thought, but we pretty quickly got to the local news network. Like, what's the gap, right? And that local news network could service real estate. It could service, new businesses coming, and it could service the free throw champion.
There you go.
Right.
Yeah.
Where was the gap? Right. And so I think my recollection was that we kind of swiftly worked through this didn't work. And then I think I gave you a challenge, 10,000 followers by the end of July 24.
Yeah.
And I was checking in, and that was like March, right, that there was a challenge. And I was like, all right, here's the sponsors, but here's what I expect you to get. Let's get some exposure. And the intent was, in the beginning, of course, we had a desire to be a sponsor, and I think very quickly we learned that sponsorship was where that was going to be. But just to let you see where you took this, right? Yeah. And I think you, on July 21st or 22nd, sent me a note, and you'd hit like 11,000, and it jumped up to like 16 by the end of the month. I think you made some Silverton post. Is it Silver Creek Falls or Silver Falls? I remember that back.
There have been a few posts that have like unexpectedly just taken off, taken a turn. Yeah. The post I did that jumped us from like 8,000 to 18,000 in like 2 weeks. I almost didn't post it. Oh. There was like this trend. It was like a 1 second trend where it was like it's a beep, and then somebody looks at the camera. And so I did like you hear the beep, I look at the camera, and then the caption was me when I see someone from Salem who's not following what's happening in Salem. I remember having it. I'm like, man, this is so cringe. But then I've learned throughout my life that it's always better to like post something bad than not post something good. And sometimes you don't know until you hit that send button if it's good or bad. And it just like millions of views for a 1 second clip. I posted it twice, actually. The first time I posted it, I got like 7,000 followers. I posted it again like 3 weeks later. I got 3,000 more followers. Wow. And I think it really did like put us kind of at a level where we just had passed a lot of people who were pretty close to us, like on, Salem-based pages. And then since then, we've just tried to do a good job of listening to what people are asking, delivering, listening to feedback and being consistent. Like I try to post like 2 or 3 times a day, just something about Salem, as often as possible. And I think people have appreciated the effort, even when they don't always agree with what is being posted specifically on that day.
Yeah, I know that, for myself, I don't live in Salem, but, I do want to know what's happening, right? Because my business is down here, and I'm following you, trying to figure out, okay, what is happening? And it's such a simple thing, right? Like the concept, but the fact that you dreamed it up and you made it a reality and it's doing so well, it does speak to the fact that there's a gap. And my question is, like, you kind of, alluded to it. How do you make those decisions day to day, like on what to post? You said, sometimes it's better to make a bad post, right, than to make a good post. And like, how do you get inside the heads of your followers to like figure out what's the best?
Yeah, we're very grateful we're in a place where we don't have to dig too hard to know what people are thinking, because they'll tell us pretty directly, like when they like something that we're posting or when they're not liking it. And I've had some people tell me, like, we talk about a collab post and they're kind of nervous because like your followers are pretty intense because they're not shy, which I think is great. Like I love that we have conversations happening in our comments. Sometimes I wish they were more productive than they are, but I'm just glad there's an opportunity for people to express just like what they think about an issue. We really try to be neutral as far as like, here's the facts. I think sometimes people will interpret what we do as support if we put somebody on the platform. So as an example, like we do a podcast with Vanessa Nordyke. That's not me supporting her as a candidate. That's just, she was willing to come on the podcast and we had a conversation and I post, what we talked about. I would love to have Julie Hoy as well, right? Or if anybody else wants to run, that's like I don't know how you define a serious candidate, but anybody else that's in the race, like we'd love to have them on as well. We just want people who have a responsibility to take care of the people of Salem to have a platform where they can share what's happening. So I think sometimes people will interpret that as like being biased one way or the other. And so when I post something with Daniel Bethel, I get people that are on the left that are screaming at me, I didn't know this was a conservative page now. And then when I post something with, Vanessa Nordyke, I get the other side that are yelling at me. So, but I think when you zoom out and you look at the page as a whole, you can see what we're doing is just trying to support Salem and keep people informed of what's going on.
Yeah. It's
Can I dig in a little bit here?
Let's go.
I hope you do.
Okay, so what's happening, Salem? You are an adolescent right now. You're 18 months in. You're kind of finding who you want to be, where you can scale, where you can take this.
Yeah.
If you had to describe to someone right now what the platform's about and where you're headed, how would you describe it?
I think where we're headed is tough. I really feel like we're just trying to look at the day in front of us. What are the opportunities? How do we make the most of it and learn and grow? Like, I don't know if there's like a 5-year vision for what this could be because things are changing so fast. Like with AI, with automation, with how people communicate. So 5 years from now, it's going to be tough. I think that we can do a better job of having systems in place to be more intentional with like what we're posting and when it's going to be posted. Because right now, especially on Instagram, for our newsletter, we're much better about having structure as far as like what we're going to send each week. And that's mostly thankful to having M. Chan on our team now, who's a former reporter for the Statesman Journal. She's really helped us in like creating some structure there. But on Instagram, it's really me just like waking up and like, all right, what's popping in Salem right now? What's getting people, like, what are people talking about? Like, let me figure out how to make a post about it, or what are people curious about? Let me make a post about it. So I think right now we're still in that stage of I'm not exactly sure what it's going to be. Part of it will be listening to our audience, like what are they looking for from us, but then also making sure we're staying aligned with our values and goals, which are let's highlight Salem and make sure that people are feeling good about where they are. And it's tough sometimes because we have some very real problems that we're dealing with. And there's some things there's a lot of conflict in our community. So finding a way to highlight the good things, but then not seeming like we're oblivious to the challenges, for me is tough. I do know, though, when I post about the challenges, the comments are much more positive because people are kind of confrontational. It's like, well, it's not that bad. But when I post about the positive, you kind of have like the other crowd who's like, nope, this sucks. This is the worst city in the world. You know what I mean? So I kind of know that's the way that works as well. But I think people have generally appreciated the balance, even though I know we're not perfect at what we do.
How do you maintain, I guess, a semblance of sanity throughout all this? Because I can tell, you're basically dipping your toes into this like water, and then really fully immersing yourselves in this river of communications, right?
Yeah.
Social media, and you're having one side over here, another side over here, and then this side over here. Like it seems like you're getting it from all over. How do you like just stay focused and kind of keep your ship, aiming towards the right place?
Yeah, I think my sanity comes from just being confident in the decision I'm making in that day is the right decision for what I believe in and what I want the page to be. Even though I know people are going to be upset, and I think for me, I've really had to accept that, like, building this thing to as big as it can be, like, some people are going to be mad along the way. There's no way that people are going to be happy with everything I do. Sometimes it'll be people that I expect and like I respect and I wish like we're on board, right? Or like understood the vision and maybe wanted to collaborate. But if that's not the case, that's okay. You know what I mean? We're going to have to just live by our morals and our values. And, when we make mistakes, be honest and transparent about it. I think we've done a pretty good job of that as well, where I'll post something and I can see it's kind of getting misinterpreted and like doing another post to follow up just to clarify, like, here's what you heard, here's what we meant. And it's been awesome when I make that type of post. I'll usually get a lot of people like, hey, most people understood what you're saying. Like, don't feel bad about this. And that's always cool to see that, like, people generally do understand the vision. Mm-hmm. I think right now what we're really trying to find the balance is like monetizing versus organic and like posts that are just good for Salem. Because there's a lot of, I haven't done a cold call in like maybe a year. Like a lot of our sponsorship requests are inbound now through our DMs. People just we have a great platform. People want to be, want to support it. I think they believe in the mission, but also want access to our distribution channels. And so I think finding the balance of what's going to work well, where we can feel good about the price and the value we're delivering, but we're not overwhelming our audience with sponsored posts.
Do you have a stated mission?
Yeah, highlight the positive things happening in Salem.
I love it. I'm going back to the beginning of your conversation with my mom was your dad in my life, right? Mm-hmm. That his belief in you allowed you to believe that you could do anything.
Yeah.
And I think the mission that I hear is you believe in Salem, and you're going to try to instill belief into those in Salem so that they believe in themselves, right? It's that, how do you take your dad's role in your life and then do that role for a community?
Yep.
And it's tough to explain that vision because highlight the positive things, people can make a decision on whether they feel it's positive in their own personal space. And I'm just trying to figure out that elevator pitch.
Yeah, when I think, the things that are recognized are repeated, right? So if we're only being critical all the times of things that are happening, like we'll probably see more of those negative things that we're being critical of. What we really try to encourage are people that are taking action, right? So there might be one person taking action here, another person taking action here, and like their actions are kind of conflicting with each other. But these people are like stepping up and trying to make change. And like we want to support that. We want to put wind in that sail. What we don't want is a group of people who are on Facebook and are just like arguing in comments, which is accomplishing nothing, right? If you're actually stepping up, putting the work in, and you're in our community, and what you're doing, you believe is making the city better. And of course, there are like degrees of that. There are some things that like maybe you think you're doing the right thing, but that is damaging for everybody, right? And like there's like far ends of the spectrum that we probably are not going to be talking about on our channel. But for the most part, like this 80% in the middle, like we're pretty comfortable in having conversations about and recognizing the work that's being done. And I understand that like when I talk about this person, it's going to make this person on the other side upset and vice versa. And that's for the audience to decide. Like, we're not going to tell you which one is necessarily right or wrong. We're just going to keep you informed on here's what these pockets of the community are doing.
And what's been the most hot button topic you've had to deal with so far?
Homelessness
platform?
for sure. Yeah, homelessness is a big one. We post homelessness and then the like deportations with ICE. We did a video, and both of them, like whenever I post a video of the police chief, I've noticed it gets a lot of traction. And so we had him on the podcast once, and there's a clip where we just asked, like, ICE is becoming a hot topic. Like, what's the police's stance? And he let me know that in Oregon, if they ask for help, like, you have to report it. And it was just him saying, like, this is just the rules. And it must have ended up on some, like, a right-wing Reddit page or something, because we would just got flooded with comments, and they were not people from Salem. Like, they were not people in our community. Yeah. But then we did another one recently where he spoke at a city council meeting and talked about, I guess this isn't specifically about homeless, but he just talked about homeless issue, but he mentioned like how understaffed they are and how like their staffing levels are the same as they were in 2008, and our population has grown significantly since then. That was another one as far as like where our money is being spent. But also homelessness. I'm trying to think of a clip recently, but whenever that comes up, and the unhoused community, like people have very strong opinions on which way that should go. And so it's always, I try to be very intentional when I have those types of posts, because I don't want to seem unsensitive, but I also want to be very realistic in, you know, what I'm saying, and make sure I'm not providing inaccurate information.
And what I do appreciate about your platform is that you do walk things back when you've, you know, realized that maybe it's been misconstrued or not communicated in the right way. And I think it makes you human, right? And I don't think, you know, if you look at like a typical news station, like, right, they're gonna make say their piece, and then the next day if they messed up, they'll give it like a, you know, a 1 minute,
for sure,
it's gone.
Yeah.
But you know, you're able to do that like quickly, and I think that I think I value that about your site and about you, right, as a person, because you even say it, you're like, I'm not perfect, right? I make mistakes, and I think that's what we need. I think more people to be like, look, like, you know, Jacob isn't perfect, right?
Yeah.
But we're still going to follow him because we, you know, find his info valuable. So I
appreciate that.
I think that's part of your brand, and I think that's part of why a lot of people probably follow you.
And I think a lot of people look at it as a weakness, but I really don't. I think it's what makes us able to be our best. Because if I came into this with like, here's how it's going to go, like point A to point B, here's a step we're going to take along the way, I'm going to be so tunnel vision. I'm going to miss out on all of this stuff happening here, all of these perspectives that are probably going to add value. And it doesn't mean I'm going to do what everybody says and try to make everybody happy, but I just need to at least be aware of these conversations and insights and ideas, and also be comfortable accepting the fact, like, I'm probably wrong about some stuff. Like, I've been creating content for a long time. I probably like think about and read about media more than probably 99% of people. But at the same time, that doesn't discredit the voices of the people around me. And I think that's something else that has allowed us to grow, is how open we are to listening to our readers. And I try to respond to every email and every DM. I'm not able to, but I'm reading probably 99% of them. And I've gotten that feedback also, that people will say, like, even when you don't respond, I know you're listening, because I can kind of see the changes happening on the page.
And, you know, it's funny because, you know, you mentioned on your intake form that you're a listener. Like, that's part of like your job. And how, like, is there like a, you know, a certain like way that you do that on social media and in person? Is there a certain like technique you've learned, or is it just like you've done it so long that you just a natural?
I think a lot of it is, so Chris Pineda, he used to run this session called Groundwork in Salem for a while. And one of the things that they talk about is like seeing people deeply. So even when I might like, somebody might say something and my first reaction is like completely disagree with it, like taking a moment to think about, okay, what's this person actually saying? Why do they feel the way that they feel? Because even if I don't agree with this statement, or I don't understand the statement, if I like take a couple of layers back and try to think about why this person feels the way that they feel, it probably makes more sense than originally would.
All right, so I have an incomplete thought, and I want to put it in front of you because your skill set and your current position, I think you're the right guy to unwind it. So to me, cancel culture is part of the problem, right? Just, I'm going to cancel you, whole loaf of bread, whatever you want to call it. And so a hot topic right now in this town is the transit tax. And I'm trying to figure out, how do we, when I say we, support you and your platform to create a mechanism where it's not you're not endorsing this person because you had one person on. Well, the other person didn't get a voice. Well, no one reached out to you. Like, how do we create this platform that has two sides? That in that transit tax that finds where we agree. So in the transit tax, I would argue, I'm on one side of the issue, but I believe that transportation for those that are the most vulnerable it's paramount that we provide that to our city. And I think for me, and I can go down the homeless with this too.
Yeah.
Like, there's an issue that I think we all agree on both sides, and we just don't agree on what's the best way to deal with it.
For sure.
And so in that transit discussion, and there's going to be more discussions coming up, how do you think your platform could openly communicate that, hey, for Salem, we believe that transportation for the most vulnerable is paramount, but we believe there's a couple different opinions on how we get there, and let's give voices.
I think we're in a unique position to do some really effective, host really effective debates, because for the most part, we've been down the middle, right? We do our best to provide voices all over the spectrum. I would love to start thinking about, all right, we're going to meet at this pub, and we're going to have pizza, we're going to have cheap beer, we're going to have two people who are, heavily informed on this issue, and we're going to have a chance to ask them questions. And what we have to prevent it from becoming is an attack, where it's teeth are out, people in the audience are yelling, calling people names on stage, but generally an opportunity to let's just ask questions and understand what's happening, which is challenging, and the first rendition wouldn't be the best. But I think we're in a good spot to create that stage, give it the context that here's what this is asking questions. We don't want to hear name calling. We don't want to hear making accusations. This is not the space for that. You can put that in the comments somewhere else, but not here. I think that, go over.
I want to pause for a second. You're a dad, you're a coach. If there's one thing I'm learning in this new restaurant business, ground rules, right? Rules for the parents on how to behave, right? In this culture and society, we just all talk without even thinking about those rules. And that's maybe an encouragement I would give, is that when you're touching these issues, how do you have a message to the community that just says, hey, here's our purpose. I'm going to remind you of our purpose going into this conversation. And here's the rules, right? If you're going to be engaging on my platform, my hope is that you would do, to serve our mission for what's best for Salem. Yeah. That you'd abide by these rules, kind of like you'd read to the parents at a high school World Cup game, right? Which is every high school game, doesn't matter how big or small the school, right? So I don't know.
I think it's hard to do that on social media because you don't know who's going to see the post, right? It might be the first post on the page they've ever seen. They're probably not going to go to the bio to read the rules or watch whatever we did. So there it's tough, right? And I feel on social, I'm much more open to it just being, what are people saying? I think there's value in the community of seeing how people are saying, what people are saying. Even when it's not constructive, I think there's just value in reading opinions and perspectives. But I think in a forum, you have the advantage of all right, you're all here, I have your attention. Here's what it is, but then also being clear with here's what it's not. Because you might think that one of these things that's not fits into this bucket, but I just want you to know it doesn't. Not here. That's not what we're doing here. And I think if we could set that type of a environment and have a consistent cadence and get to a place where people who don't like each other or don't agree on something are able to sit next to each other. Because even that in itself, these two people who are on opposite ends of this topic, if we can just have the visual of them sitting together, having a conversation, hopefully it will help encourage everybody else that kind of follows and looks to these people for guidance to have a similar perspective. Yeah. So depending on the issue, it's easier to do that, right? And there probably are going to be times where they get emotional, they get heated, we're all people and we're passionate about these topics. That's going to be part of it. But let's just remember, hey, we're all community members at the end of the day, and giving people a chance, all right, take a deep breath. What did you mean by that? You sounded you're pretty upset, which I understand, but without calling names, let's dig in deeper to what you're actually saying.
Yeah, there's passion there, and there's passion because you're trying to solve something, to find an outcome, right?
Yeah.
And I think just thinking through, critical thinking is something that has been lost over the last 15 to 20 years just in society, I think.
Absolutely. I think chariots is a great example, right? Where like we would be naive to think that like automation is not going to play a huge role in public transportation in the future. It's going to be every industry. Like they're not going to be like isolated from the impact. Yeah. But at the same time, we're in a place where we have people who like rely on this every single day to get from point A to point B. So we need to make sure, like in the meantime, like let's make sure we have a plan to help them get where they need to go, so they can enjoy the community as well.
I don't think the main issue is necessarily that. It's the fact that I don't think the voters got a choice when you're talking about like a budgetary item.
No, for sure.
And being having to force $40 million. Down the throats of the taxpayers, right? I think that's what really got people going.
No, totally. Nobody's going to be happy hearing that you have to pay for something. You don't have a voice
for sure. Yeah, and as a small business, if you're paying another $3,500 a year to fund something that you don't have a choice over, that I think it's really, really hard. So but to hear what you're both saying, like I agree. Like I think that putting ground rules around like conversations and making it safe. There's a website, I think it's called Braver Angels. Okay. And, it's a website that is actually formed for bringing, the left and the right together and making a safe space for people to actually have conversations.
Very cool.
And because I think it's so important too, because, if you're in an environment where the tension is high, emotions are high, people are shouting, people are, wearing different things that get you going, you're not going to have a safe space. But if you're, in a place like this, or you're in a place where, everybody, can remain calm and know there's a focus. You have a moderator, right? Moderators are important. Mm-hmm. Just to give yourself an opportunity to listen to the other side, because I think that's what we're missing that in our society, and social media kind of plays into that a little bit, because it's just it's the first thing you like. It's
I think
your
that's
social
media, it multiplies it, because you only see the content that you agree with, because that's what you click on. You know what I mean? So you're only seeing the things that make you so mad. You leave a comment or you like,
and then it Uber validates whatever opinion you had, and then you're just so confused that other people even have a different opinion.
Which is another reason I feel like this idea of getting people in the room together is so important.
Dude, pub debates, I'm in.
Yeah,
and I'm just questioning: is this like Charles Barkley and a few others that are lined up, right? Where you don't even have the experts; it's just real humans that are putting themselves on the line, or is this?
I think we need the experts.
That's dangerous.
They're informed. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but it would be fun to have like a mixed crowd, but at least having one expert on each side, I think, is important.
And I think, I think you could curate, an experience as well, and you could probably do it in the right way if you had just the right crowd and the right two people and, the right person leading the charge. Like I think you would be fantastic at doing that, just to be able to kind of be in the middle. But you have to realize there is, you're playing with fire sometimes.
So here's your challenge. Or maybe not. Maybe this is just my opinion of, maybe I'm trying to give you something to do. But right now, this world is dividing us into teams, left and right.
Yeah.
Business versus homeless advocates. I'm still confused why a homeless advocate's called that, because advocating for someone to die in the street that's a different opinion, right? But why are we all forced to choose a team? And why is it the entire loaf of bread or nothing? Why can't we be Team Salem?
There you go.
And so I think your goal is...
that's my new mission statement. Why can't we be Team Salem?
Yeah, just Team Salem. There's no left and right. There's no business versus... It's just how do we take care of each other and be Team Salem? Yeah. And I think that's at the core what I hear your mission statement is I just want a teammate, just be on my team. And I just because I had someone on doesn't mean I'm against you and that we all have to disown and cancel at this point, right? Yeah. And you're going to be in you're going to have a tough situation, and I would argue it's coming soon, because when the political dollars are now spending on platforms like you.
Yeah.
Right? And finding a way to allow for that monetization for your channel to grow and do greater things, but without being labeled that you're on one team or another. Yeah. So I'm going to help in that however I can, and I'm curious to see where you go with that. But I love your pub debates, and I think that the next space, and maybe I'll get one more opinion from you.
Okay.
You've communicated that there was media. There's three people that own it all. It's kind of going more to a bunch of silos, a bunch of people creating their own little communities, right? How do you connect and not have a silo anymore? And how do you allow a platform where all those little communities have a space in one parent community?
Yeah.
How's
I
it
think
not
that
just you on
gets
your
back
own?
almost to like what it was, right? Where it's like there were three heads and I have all these individuals, and then it's like, all right, the three heads are just going to buy up the individuals now, which could very much be, what it becomes. I think there definitely is a lot of opportunity for collaboration, to happen within like the little pockets and kind of figuring out how to do that well. I think Salem extremely undervalues the creator economy. One, from the creator side, people who have a lot of talent but just aren't quite like jumping in yet. And if they would just jump in and start like building a brand for themselves, would probably do really well and make more than they are with their whatever their job is. Maybe it takes a little while, but like it's very possible, and it's easier right now than it ever will be. But I think also on the other side, where businesses are, like, I think they're starting to understand the value of like working with the creator. I think they don't know how to do it. Like, how do I reach out? How much does somebody charge? You know what I mean? Who can I reach out to?
There's no structure.
Exactly. It's like the Wild West, which to me is exciting. Like, all right, let's break some stuff. Let's figure it out. Let's see what we can do. But I think it's going to be up to the individuals to decide, are we going to work together? Does it make sense to work together? I think there'll be times where it does and times where maybe it feels forced, but it'll be up
When
to
I
them
used to read the newspaper, there was an opinion column. There was a food column. There was the garden tips.
Yeah.
And when I see what's happening, I see these spokes where you can allow someone to maybe benefit from some of what you've built, and maybe there's some cross benefit there. But maybe the food channel exists on your channel. Maybe and I'm just trying to figure out how do we support that? How do we support other creators like you alongside of you to have a collective effort, and instead of everyone recreating and breaking things in their own silos, how do we provide some infrastructure support?
Yeah, like an incubator, right, for creators.
For creators.
Yeah. We do. We try to work with a lot of different people at different capacities. Sometimes it is connecting a brand to a creator that we know would be a good fit, and they get a check out of it, and the brand gets more exposure than they probably would, spending their money otherwise. So we'll try to be connectors for sure. I think there's room for like all sorts of pages. I don't know if it all is going to make sense on what's happening in Salem and our mission, but I think Salem Business Journal, they're kind of figuring out, some fun stuff over there. I think we partner with like Salem Reporter. They do a great job with diving deep into a topic. Let's help you and bring it to life on Instagram. I think there's some fun opportunities there. And then like I want to make a sports page happen also.
Yes.
Like we don't have any local sports that's consistent. We do have one person, that's Jeremy McDonald, I think is his name. He does a pretty good job. He's not active on like Instagram though, and I think right now that's where the attention is. So it's a discredit to the community to not have something sports focused. So I'm working with a few people, hopefully to bring something like that to life. I think maybe you were getting at a specific solution I'm not getting at.
Oh, not necessarily, but the sports one's a good example of how, like, the kids right now.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to change, start with the schools.
Yeah.
Right? That's from the beginning of time.
Yep.
Have a skill. They have a phone. They can do their own editing.
Yeah.
There has to be a review process for a lot of reasons, but let's just call it a youth sports. If there was video highlights and you could post,
For sure.
and it would be tagged, and there was a mechanism for like a high school kid to tell you what the fourth quarter was like and post the short video and give you the brief update on your page.
Yeah.
And that's where my head's at, is like, how do we, not the people looking to make a career out of it, but how do we create that home where that inspires the kids to self-report.
Yeah.
Right? The big game, Staten versus Cascade, right? My son is so excited about this seventh grade game coming up next week. And I'm like, great. Like, I can inspire him to get a phone and report on that.
Yeah. That would be a great outcome for sure. I think to get there though, you probably need somebody who's going to show up consistently, and it's hard to do that if they're not getting paid. So
what before we wrap up here, I was just curious, like, we talk a lot about the challenges facing downtown, and if we were to, we're obviously putting in a lot of work, with Stack, Salem Team Action Crew, as a group, just to try to bring some positivity to downtown. And it's been fun. We're always challenging ourselves to figure out what's next, what events to do next. But what would be a win for Salem if we're sitting here, talking 5 years from now? What would be a win for downtown Salem in your eyes?
if Salem was branded as the funnest part of Oregon. Like, that's what I want. I want us to be the place that people know.
I love that.
Something's happening.
Yeah.
Like, you can go to Salem. Like,
we are the hot spot in Oregon.
Yeah.
We're the most fun place to be.
Exactly.
Make Austin jealous.
There's music. There's like music's happening. There's cool art stuff happening. Like, there's just things to do. And we're investing in the people that are making things happen. We're removing the barriers. We're putting fuel, in their tank.
That gets me fired up.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah.
And we got it happening in pockets. You know what I mean? Like, the Hussey brothers doing a good job at the Grand. Rick Saffields has been doing pop-up events that have been very well attended.
Yeah.
So there's lots of like cool things that are happening in pockets, and we just need to figure out how do we keep this group energized to continue making fun things happening, giving people a reason to come together. And that's what's going to create the buzz that people are going to want to come here. You know what I mean? Like, there's things to do. People are making things happen. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be the one doing all the work. Maybe like you can just, put fuel in someone else's tank and let them see how far they could go. Just like with what's happening in Salem, bringing it back full circle here.
I love it, man. And you did not hesitate with that answer, which is
incredible.
No, he knew it was coming.
I like that, though.
I've been thinking about this a lot. I did an email send about this.
Yeah.
There's another like tag that we have that I just don't really even understand. But I think if we were most fun part of Oregon, immediately, like, what that means, and then you look like, all right, what's going on there? What makes it that?
Yeah.
Interesting. There's a couple things I want to talk after about sponsoring, but I hear that you're going to follow in Dad's footsteps and you're going to go down book number 1.
First book, pre-order today, the day of the recording.
I got my pre-order
How
in.
Parties Will Save the World. I honestly believe that if we have more people just giving people a reason to come together, it solves a lot of the other things that were there. I mean, of course, there's other things that have to happen, but I think that can be a major component in us just working better together. I'll give an example. Like, I used to throw a lot of dinner parties at my place. It's been a little while. I need to get back to it. But at one of the parties, Yurla and Sarah met. Like, they didn't know each other. They came to the party, and then they came together and created Oregon Conferences for Women, which has been like, they sell out like and it's just an example of like, when you bring people together, give people a chance to connect and get to know each other, you have no idea the potential of what can happen after that. So sometimes like just setting the table is enough.
Yeah. And, we have to shout out the events we're going to be throwing at the Forge here very soon. We're going to do, we can't talk too much about our secret open for our Cellar 54 event space, but our Cellar 54 event space at the Forge will be hopefully that place for people to come and support each other and get entertained and have fun and make connections. Because that's what I love about, we have an event space here at 45th Parallel called The Space. And it's like, the reason, we wanted to do that was because, we feel like we really want to connect, right? We want to bring people together. And so we're going to do a Halloween event, which is going to be really fun at the end of this month. We're going to just try to party all of November and December in this holiday season, and just bring people together. So hopefully, and I know we got your support. We appreciate that. And,
always.
This was great.
This is great.
Yeah.
I want round 2 already.
Yeah.
I want
thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
New co-host.
We could use a co-host sometime. AJ's busy.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on, Jacob.
Thanks for having me. This was great. Appreciate you both.
Yeah. A pleasure.